In our first story, the Electoral Commission has dismissed claims by the National Democratic Congress that the Commission is attempting to insert the name of one of the MPP's aspirants into the Asin North voters register ahead of the by-election. Now, the NDC had on Sunday revealed that the MPP aspirant Charles Opoku is not a registered voter in the Asin North constituency, adding that the, quote, illegal move will help the aspirant contest. Now, responding to the allegations in a statement, the EC insisted that they were false and a figment of the author's imagination and should be treated with contempt it deserves. Now, according to a statement by the EC, a person does not need to be a registered voter in a particular constituency to enable him or her to contest elections in that constituency. Now, moving on to a rather sad note, about 50 church members of Resurrection Power New Generation Church have sustained various degrees of injuries following an accident involving 4 cars. The incident happened at Menskrom Wager Junction on the Accra-Kasua Highway on Sunday. The 4 cars are a Tata bus which carry the members of the church, an old Benz, Kia Rio taxi, and a Toyota Vitz belonging to a police officer. We'll bring you more details of that story in our subsequent bulletins. Now, moving on to some other stories. There's hope on the horizon. That's according to the 2024 flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama. Now, speaking at the 44th anniversary of the June 4, 1979 uprising held at Hohoi in the Volta region, the former president was optimistic the NDC will win the 2024 general election, but called for hard work.
The choice of Hohoi for the 44th anniversary of the June 4, 1979 uprising was not a coincidence. The constituency is the only one in the Volta region which is held by the governing New Patriotic Party.
It's somewhat ironic now that a form of amnesia has happened where people have forgotten the chronology of where we are today, that they behave as if we went from independence to the Fourth Republic. However, the fact that this Fourth Republic has been the most enduring is a testament to what the principles represented. This is your legacy. Be proud of it. Do not allow anybody to shame you about your history. June 4th is your legacy, and that is what resulted in where we are today.
General Secretary of the NDC, Fifi Fiabekwete, lauded the role of the late former president, Jerry John Rawlings, to Ghana's development.
The revolution was simply a trumpet that awoke us. An evolution which is a journey that we have day by day. An evolution that shows our love for country, our love for our communities, the transformation of this beautiful country, the emergence of people who are genuinely selfless, who love their country, who want to do what is right, who will abhor injustice, fight for the social justice of this country, and the true empowerment of our people. That is what the evolution is about.
2024 NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama called for unity and hard work to win the 2024 polls.
There should be sufficient basis to work towards a change that helps reset our country and build the Ghana we all want together. It must be a change that will afford you a shot at fulfilling your aspirations and realizing your dreams in your own country. As heirs of the revolution in the NDC, we have no choice but to offer dedicated leadership for this effort. We dare not fail.
He assured the public the NDC will work to tackle the economic mess created by the Akufo-Addo-led government.
We must set a new standard in governance so that Ghanaians will appreciate that we are not condemned as a people to live with this level of greed and impunity. I hear people say we must come to power and also exact our pound of flesh. But as the inheritors of the spirit of June 4th, I dare say we cannot become a copy of the MPP, or else Ghanaians would have lost all hope of salvation. But the revolution has come.
Let's do some education-related stories now. And leadership of the caterers under the school feeding program will hold a crunch meeting on Monday, June 5, to deliberate on whether or not to call off the nationwide industrial action. This comes after the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection assured to clear all arrears owed the caterers by next week.
Caterers under the school feeding program declared a nationwide strike following government's failure to pay them their arrears and increase the amount per child. The aggrieved caterers drawn from the various regions across the country stressed that laying down their tools is the only option available to them. They say until government agrees to pay them 3 cedis 50 pesos per child, they won't call off their strike.
We cannot go and borrow to come and cook for the children for free. We are fed up. We want our money.
Caterers have become indebted to the traders and farmers we credited items from. We are ashamed because we owe so much.
A recent proposal from the Gender Ministry falls short of the expectation of the caterers.
The cost per child per day has been proposed as 1 cedi 20 pesos, and we are still in talks with the Ministry of Finance to see how best, if it can be reviewed.
According to the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Laribazwera Abudu, another concern of the caterers, which has to do with the payment of arrears owed them, will be addressed by next week.
Delay in payment is true. 30,860 something is huge. So when the document is very voluminous, you need to take time. And this people's money, you need to be very careful. I want to give the assurance here that next week, caterers' arrears will be paid.
It remains to be seen whether or not the caterers will be returning to the kitchen to cook for the children after the 2-month-long strike. A total of 3,448,065 pupils in some basic schools currently benefit from the school feeding program.
Meanwhile, the Member of Parliament for Busa South and Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee of Parliament, Dr. Clement Park, has regretted how the caterers are being treated and urged government to address their grievances.
What the school feeding caterers, the conditions in which they have been trusted to are abominable and unacceptable. To think that for the 2023 budget year, the government allocated and Parliament approved 959 million for the school feeding program, and yet government owes the caterers and is failing to even meet the minimum requirement to provide a nutritious hot meal per day cannot be tolerated. If you were to look at the staff level agreement between the government of Ghana and the IMF, which has brought about the decision by the IMF to give us a bailout, it is indicated that government has increased the allocation to the school feeding program to offset the effects of inflation. So if government has conveyed to the IMF that it has increased the allocation to the school feeding program, why is government failing to agree that the minimum required to provide a decent and nutritious hot meal per day should be 3 cedis 50 pesos? So all these are questions that we ought to be asking government.
Let's do health now. And on May 25, a combined team of neurosurgeons and medical professionals conducted an awake surgery at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, guided by advanced technology. Today, we go behind the scenes to understand the history of awake surgery in Ghana and how the purchase of equipment by government for the conjoined twins helped make a surgery a rare one.
Clement, yes, sir. Any activities here?
When it comes to the situation in our country, which I personally want to emphasize my tribute to our first neurosurgeon, Dr. Mustafa. He is the first person to have attempted awake surgery in our country.
The story on the awake brain surgery at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital generated buzz on social media. Today, I'm back at the hospital to follow up on the patient.
The patient will be discharged and he will be followed up on OPD basis. And he is very sound and well.
There was a time that the world decided that they wanted to teach the people in the low and middle income countries how to do awake surgery to cut down that cost. In our case, we started with using a 3D printed, which is extremely rare within our system. We now use ultrasound to do the nerve blockade, the local anesthesia on the head. And then together with that, use the ultrasound and the neuronavigation again to detect exactly where the tumor is, plus what we call transoperative neuromonitoring, where we do the brain mapping. These things did not exist in earlier times, at the time those things were done. And so for the first time, we have deployed this kind of technology in doing a very successful awake surgery.
Let's now delve deeper into how the surgery was conducted using latest technology, some only available in Ghana. It started with the 3D printing technique. Thanks to the surgery of the conjoined twins, government purchase of advanced ultramodern equipment helped in their awake surgery as the transoperative ultrasound was used in combination with neuronavigation.
It's the latest generation. We call that the S8 stealth system, and this is the only one we have in Ghana, and for that matter in West Africa. What that does is that it really helps build the skills of our neurosurgeons. It also does a lot in moving in a lot of cases from the West Coast to Ghana. So that is health tourism. So it's our hope that we can have more investment in equipment like this to give better outcomes to patients.
It is the hope of the team that conducted the complex brain mapping awake surgery that the equipment will be available in major hospitals across the country to advance the course of neurosurgery.
The Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons have established the neurosurgery faculty for us to be able to train our own neurosurgeons. And I do believe that every neurosurgical center should have this kind of equipment to be able to do this kind of surgery, so that the accredited centers that will be training our neurosurgeons should have the feel of this.
One thing is evident, that the equipment brought in to separate the conjoined twins has saved a number of lives at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. That
brave decision we took as a team in Ghana, collaboration with the Focus Orthopedic Hospital, very, very important, that where we have the electrophysiologists who do the brain mapping, and that is how best we've been able to do this.
Let's stay on health now. In the Upper West region, recorded 996 cumulative cases of COVID-19 with 46 deaths. Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali disclosed this when he joined the Muslim Ummah at the Central Mosque in the Laura municipality to offer prayers for how far the country fared under the coronavirus pandemic. Now, President Akufo-Addo last week, in line with World Health Organization, announced COVID-19 pandemic was over in Ghana. And Paramount Chief of the Laura traditional area praised government's efforts during the pandemic. Now, the Intelligence Department of Cocoa Board, in collaboration with the Asamankese District Police Command, have arrested one person in connection with an alleged smuggling of 35 barrels of cocoa beans. Stanley Niblo reports that the cocoa beans were packaged in palm oil barrels to outsmart police during transportation.
Smugglers have devised several means to smuggle cocoa beans out of the country. The practice, according to officials from Cocoa Board, has been rampant in cocoa-growing regions. At Asamankese in the eastern region, the smugglers have resorted to packaging the cocoa beans into barrels to outweight officers. The enclave is noted for palm oil production, so barrels are used to hide the cocoa beans for onward transportation. Following a tip-off, Cocoa Board intelligence officers, with assistance from the police, raided the scene when the cocoa beans were about to be transported. The kingpin was alleged to have received a tip-off, and so he quickly informed his laborers, and they all fled the scene, abandoning the loaded barrels of cocoa beans. The truck and the cocoa beans were later towed to the Asamankese District Police Station. A barrel contains in excess of 2 bags of cocoa beans. The owner of the truck, who is also a resident of Asamankese, reported himself to the police the following day and was arrested. He was taken to the scene but denied that the presence of the truck was to load and transport the cocoa beans.
It will surprise you. Today we are here. Yesterday we were in Tepa. 3 days ago we were in Elubo. And last week we were in Aflau and Ho. And so the situation is getting out of hand.
Neighboring Togo and Ivory Coast are the destinations for cocoa smuggled from Ghana. The cocoa beans have been confiscated and transported to a cocoa board facility in Tema.
Now imagine working for someone you have never met or seen in person. You only see them in magazines, on television and on social media. Well, for the 105 employees at the Pestana CR7 Hotel in Morocco, seeing their employer, football legend Cristiano Ronaldo, in person would be a dream come true. George Quenin spent some nights at the CR7's 4-star hotel and has come through with this report.
One of the highlights of my participation at this year's Gators Africa in Morocco was my accommodation. In my entire life, I've always dreamt of connecting with football superstar Cristiano Ronaldo. But least did I expect that I would indirectly connect with him sooner than I expected.
No, you can't get the job. You will get the job because also, it's a tricky question. They want to see if you have a strong personality.
Manager of the room division is Mohamed Askor.
No, we never saw her before. Yes, of course. Come on, it's a big dream for us to see Cristiano here. We've seen his mother, his sister, and all his friends, but we're still waiting to see him in person.
What a sight these autograph booths and jerseys are. Ivorian journalist Juliette Abwa raves about her time at the Pestana CR7 Hotel.
Cristiano Ronaldo is my favorite player. That is an accomplishment. If you don't see in the physical, come here, you have Cristiano Ronaldo.
Dayo Divet is a South African and British investor.
As you enter the entrance, from his boots that are signed right through to his various player jerseys, etc., it's a real spectacle and special.
Despite not being a huge fan of Cristiano Ronaldo, Rwandan Jacques Loué is impressed with the legend's investment in non-football related businesses.
I noticed in the name CR7, which obviously is directly related with Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's a good surprise, and I would have never known that a footballer like him can do investment like this. So it's quite impressive, actually.
Cristiano Ronaldo is part of some famous footballers, including Rio Ferdinand, Lionel Messi, Clarence Seedorf, Vincent Kompany, who own hotels. As at April 2023, the Portuguese and Al Nassr forward is estimated to be $500 million in net worth. For most workers here, it will be a dream come true should they meet their boss, which is the football legend Cristiano Ronaldo, in person. Well, until then, they can only be watching him on TV, just like myself. George Quenin, TV3 News, Marrakesh, Morocco.
Interesting report by George Quenin there. Now on to some international stories. And Senegal's government has cut access to mobile internet services in certain areas because of deadly rioting in which hateful and subversive messages have been posted online. Senegal has been rocked by 3 days of violent protests in which 16 people have died, one of the deadliest bouts of civil unrest in decades. Last week, the government limited access to certain messaging platforms, but many were able to bypass the outage with the use of virtual private networks that marks the location of the user. It intended the outage on Sunday to include all data on mobile internet devices in certain areas and at certain times, the statement said. Now, the catalyst for the unrest was the sentencing on Thursday of popular opposition leader Ousmane Sonko in a 2-year-old rape case. His supporters say that the prosecution was politically motivated and he has denied any wrongdoing. Protesters have also been angered by President Macky Sall's refusal to rule out running for a 3rd term. Senegal has a 2-term presidential limit.